This is Gemara Zevachim, Daf Ayin Vav. We like all learning to be an incredible schos refuah shalema for Gabriel Simcha and Miriam Ahuva. B'soich Shar Chayli Yisrael. Anyone else would like to reach out, especially with the Heilig Yontiv of Chanukah on the horizon, to partner, please do so. We're holding on the Mishnah on the bottom of Ayin Hey Amid Beis as we discuss different karbanos. Again, following the theme of the previous Mishnah. Kol Zevachim, karbanos, they got mixed together. And what do we do with the aftermath? So says the Mishnah, Asham shenis arev, where's our highlighter? Asham shenis arev bishlamim. A carbon asham that got mixed with the shlamim, Rabbi Shimon Aimer. Shneim ishchatu b'safayin. They're both shechted in the north. As we'll see, both of these karbanos, asham and the shlamim, klapi the dam, klapi the blood, they both are identical, and therefore they're both shechted in the north. V'yachlu b'chamar shebehem, and they're eaten with the more chamor halachais. This is the karban asham, which has to be eaten in the azara for a day and a night by kayhanim. Amrulais, this was Rabbi Shimon. Excuse me, the chachamim responds, Ein meviim kodshim lebeis hapasul. You cannot expose kodshim to become pasul. What does that mean? What it means is you're creating a situation, giving them both of the chumras of the asham, that is shortening the time of the shlamim, and therefore it could become pasul. But rather, as Rashi explains, Yiroach tistavu, let the carbon graze until it gets a mum, and at least that way you're not causing the carbon to be pasul. The next case, nisarvu chatichos bechatichos, not the actual animals, but pieces of each carbon got mixed together. Kache kachim bekache kalim. Says the Mishnah, what do you do? And a carbon that can be eaten for one day with a carbon that can be eaten with 2 days. Again, you have to eat with the more chamer halacha of the karbanis. Says the Gemara, Tana Gamei Derav Shvius Ein Loichem B'Dameh Truma. With regarding items of Shvius, you're not allowed to buy Truma with the money. If you sell Peirah Shvius, and now the money you get, you cannot buy Truma with it, for the simple reason being that the money of Kedusha Shvius has Kedusha, and therefore, again, you're going to be limiting the usages of this Kachim, of this Truma. Says the Mishnah, Gemara, excuse me, like we just said, you're lowering, you're diminishing the level of its consumption. That if Truma is bought with Shvius money, you're now limited by the time of Shvius, meaning Truma you can eat forever. Shvius, it's not true. You only can eat as long as there is a similar produce in the field. And therefore, you're going to come to limit the Truma. Says the Gemara, Amruah, Rabbanan Kamei Derava. Ha, this din is like Rav Shimon. Tikar of Shimon, Amravi Kachal Beis Apostle. He says you're allowed to. He's not concerned of bringing Kachim that they might become basal. Therefore, similarly, in the case of Truma, Amr Lehem says Rav, Afilu Tamer Rav Shimon, no, keep him be Rav Shimon. Hani Mili, this din that we're saying we have a mixture is diavad, is after the fact. It's post facto. Lechatchila lai. Of course, not lechatchila. And when does Rav Shimon argue? Rav Shimon only argues in the world of lechatchila, not in the world of vidyevet. Says the Gemara, really? Ulechatchila lai. But the Rav Shimon not saying it's din lechatchila. Isvei Abaye as Abaye, as we turn over to Ayin Vav Amid Aleph Kulam. All the karbanos Rashayin Kayahanim Lishanois Bachilasan. Klabi, all the karbanos, what's the halacha? The kahanim are allowed to change the way that it's eaten. Meaning what? Says the Gemara. La'achlan sluyin shalukin umavushalim. The kahanim choose how they want the food to be prepared. V'la says l'taychan. They can add into them tavle chulin, spices which are chulin, v'tavle truma divrei Rebbe Yishmael or Rav Shimon. So what do we see? We see that Rav Shimon does not have any level, any limitation on the item that was potentially truma. So why would it be any different by us? Amrlei. So responds Rav Tabaya, Hanach li truma tavle derabanan. Spices of truma is the ken eskaraya from, because it's only a din derabanan. Esvei asabaya further, in loichin truma bekasev ma'aser. You cannot purchase truma with money of ma'aser sheni. Why? Because again, you're diminishing the time the ma'aser sheni could be in, but Rabbi Shimon matir. So ishtiglei. So Rava was quiet. Rava couldn't come with the teretz. Rabbi Yosef, Amar Lei said Rabbi Yosef, Amai, why are you quiet? Why did you not answer meha from the following Mishnah that says, you cannot mix the two of them together. For Rabbi Shimon matir. So what do we see over here? We see that Rabbi Shimon does not have any level of restrictions, even lechatchila. So why are you telling me he does? Amar le Abaye. So responds Abaye of Lavmi Osvitu. Do we not ask on that Mishnah me'ad the tavlin? Va'amar le Hanach le Shumas tavlin derabanan. No, leave it. It only did derabanan. So hachenami Shumas Yarig is derabanan. But frakti Gemara Yachiyevcha mi ba'ile. The exact opposite lemisni. Yarig shel Shuma b'shemen shel shviyas. V'lavmi Yarig shel Shuma b'shemen shel shviyas. The exact opposite of our case. So says Gemara, wait, but we have such a shayla. V'lavi usvitim mastisan. The matter of Shimon. V'amar li di'ariv. Hachinami di'ariv. They got confused. Idi'ariv ma'itaim d'Rabbanan. Frak the Gemara. So why did the Rabbanan say it's ulcer? Explains the Gemara. Midave asham ushe lamim. Similar to the case of an asham and a shlamim. Once they are mixed, the Chachamim said in the Mishnah that you still don't want to cause the shlamim to be possible, and therefore does not assume the chumras like the asham. So too in our case, the Rabbanan are not going to allow you to cook the truma oil with the shviyas, even though it's already mixed. Says the Gemara, what's your raya? Midami hasam isle tekanta beria. Over there, in the case of the Mishnah, there's a way to fix it. Let it graze and let it get a mum. And that's why the Rabbanan came along and said not to eat the carbon, let it go and graze. Let's take the kanta. Says the Gemara, but this case, there is no takana. We're talking about truma oil. Beria. Frakti Gemara. It's talking about a different case. It's talking about a case, says the Gemara, that it was chaticha mixed with another chatichais, and therefore what? The kivin to less the takana da'eichel kechamer shabem, and therefore there's no takana. Why not? Because these entities have to be eaten with the most chomer part of carbon that it might have been. Maskevler Ravina, fracture Ravina mitami chaticha sheb chatichas less lo takanta klal. But over here, there is a way to fix it with schita, the oil from the vegetable. So says the Gemara, Rav Yosef, how are you going to do that? Nischa tuva squeeze too much. Come afsid v'shvis kun shvis to luv. Nischa porta so Rav Yeruve. Lamaisa, they're mixed together, and that's why you're caught between a rack and a hard place. Asi Rav Shimon asks further. Rav Shimon Aimer Lamachras maybe Hashamay v'luglayima. The next day, the Kohen Gadol brings with him his Hashem and his lug of oil. V'Aimer, and he says Im shall mitzaira, that if it's a carbon of a mitzaira, Rizah Asham v'Zel lugay. It's going to be an Asham and it will be his lug. I'll give back to the boys. So first of all, we see what is allowed to be done. We turn over to Einam and Beis. Says the Gemara, V'im Lav, says the Gemara, and as we turn over to Ayin Vav Amid Beis, says the Gemara, V'im Lav, Harei no, 1 second, we lost the page. V'im Lav, Asham, Zeh, Shel Shalmi Nedava. This one, which is a potential Asham, should be a Shalmi Nedava, a Nedava, Dika Asham. Va'isei asham, and that asham ta'on shchita batzafain, need a shechta batzafain, umatan b'haines, and put it on the thumb. This is what they did by the Mitzvah, was put it on the right thumb, the right big toe, etc. Usmicho nisachim u'tenuva chazav v'shaik, and it finishes off that you need to do all the things. Smicha, in case it's going to be a shlamim, you have to lean on it, you have to do appropriate nisachim, waving the chazav v'shaik, and v'necha liyayim v'layla. So ask the Gemara, so what do we see? We see that Rav Shimon is not worried about limiting the carbon, because we see that Rav Shimon over here is giving you the chomras of the asham. Responds the Gemara, Tekune Gavra Shaini. What a person needs to be metakin the mensch, what a person needs, that is going to be different. That you're right. Rav Shimon allows for a limitation. Shimon allows for a chumrah, but that's dafka in order that the mitzayra can become tar, so he could get his appropriate kapara and tahira. Says the Gemara, Hatinach asham. This makes sense for the asham. But look, what do you say about the look of shaman? How are you going to breeding the look of shaman if this person might actually be a mitzayra? Says the Gemara, Damar look zay in a dava. The look also is in a dava. I have a double mitzayra. Says the Gemara, we got to play both sides of the coin. Uba'i mikmatz. And you really have to do a kemitza. Says the Gemara, you did the mikmatz, you did a kemitza with the oil. I v'dom mitzayru ba'in matan sheva. Maybe it's a mitzayru and you need to put it 7 times. Says Gemara, no, you did all that. So we're seeing that we're giving you all the chumras. You asked the Gemara, smack in the middle of this amid, 10 lines down. First one line is the Ayav al-Chasar lei. But the lug of Shemen is diminished via the Kemitza. And the halacha is, in order to put it on the mitzayra, is only going to work if what? If you have the entire lug of Shemen. Says the Gemara, Damaisi Purta and Umali lei. He brings a little oil and he replenishes it. You fill it back up. Titinan, as we learned in the Mishnah, if the lug became a little bit missing before the kohen poured the lug into the left hand of the kohen, what do? Yimalenu. So to bayas yimalenu, you're going to fill it back up. I asked the Gemara of Abaye Aktara, but if he's not a mitzayra, you have to burn the lug of shemen. Says Gemara, actually you do that. Says Gemara, 1 second. Emas, how are you doing this? Basar matanas sheva. If it's after you put it 7 times, havilu sharayim shechasru ben kamita la'aktara. The oil that's remaining is going to be missing between the kamita and aktara. And the halacha is being maktirin as a kaimet aleim. And the halacha is you're not allowed to burn the kaimet for them. And if it's kaidem matan sheva, says the Gemara, then what? Kol shmimenu leishim areyo bebal taktiru. Anything which a part of it is put on the mizbeach is going to be part of the isser, not to burn any part of it on the mizbeach. So how are we accomplishing this? So Amar Rav Yehuda B'reit Rav Shimon Pazi, you know what you do? Demasek leho l'shem eitzim. You burn it. You bring it as a carbon for the sake of the eitzim. Meaning, the mizbeach needs eitz, needs wood, and you're allowed to bring extra things, l'shem eitzim, for the wood. And the kohen, when he brings it, is going to have to make this unique tanai. As Rashi at the end of this Amid spells out, l'shem eitzim damar hachi. You know what the kohen's going to say? Em mitzayru din aktar zakam zaktara. Dalam nedava yavoy, then harei mizeh. Ma'alu she'enon shirayim v'meina mitzayra v'aktar zakam zaktara v'yeshen ali ishem v'elu shirayim heim u'bal taktiru then harei azayzalo kilu heim mayim shirashel alu shirayim minchal mizbech. You're allowed to bring up the shirayim, so he stipulates both sides of the kohen. Titania, the Gemara finishes off as we learned in our brayso. Rav Eliezer Aimer L'reach nichayach iyata ma'ila. Says Rav Eliezer, for reach nichayach, you're not allowed to bring something on the mizbeach that might have to be eaten. But what are you allowed to? Aval ata ma'ila, you're allowed to bring it up, as we just saw, and we conclude l'shem eitzim. And that is what he's going to do. Explains Rashi in Tablet Amud, Misham Lishna, Tekra, Desiva Bal Taktiru Nakale, we go to Lashon of the Pasik, and that is so far what we think we're going to be doing with this lug of oil, but we'll pick it up from here, and the next year we'll continue figuring out what we do with it. B'siyata Dishmaya.